Today, I'm going to share 7 of the most underrated mods that I've done to the Jeep Wrangler. These are things I haven't really talked a lot about in other videos, but when it comes down to it, I use these almost more than anything else on the Jeep. These range from like $20 DIY projects to multiple hundreds of dollar items that require, professional installation. So there's a wide range within these 7. I think this is going to be an interesting video. Hey everybody, welcome to 4x-Trail. I'm Caleb, and today we're going to talk about 7 of what I think are the most underrated mods on my Jeep Wrangler. I think this is going to be fun. But before we start, if you enjoy videos like this, if you love the outdoors and exploring and building up your rig and going out and having fun with friends and family, I invite you to come join us here on the channel just by subscribing. It's a free way for you to get great content, and it really helps promote the channel. So thanks in advance for hitting that subscribe button. You can even do it right now. All right, let's dive into these 7 mods. All right, we're kicking off the list here at the back of the Jeep with my DIY folding table. Now this thing, I've done a video on it on how to make one yourself and install it. They're pretty easy to make, really inexpensive. So we're not going to dive too much into this, but I got to include it on the list because I've used this thing so much more than I thought I would. Not just at camp for food prep and all that. That's great for that. But this rig is my daily driver. So I end up using this thing for extra table space all the time, whether we're getting the kids out at the store, we just got to throw a diaper bag on there while we get the stroller out or whatever. It's just super handy having that extra table space in the back of the Jeep. Now, this one is really a simple design. It uses a piano hinge to mount to the tailgate, and you just got a magnet here that keeps it really secure. It doesn't rattle at all. It doesn't hold as much weight as some of the ones you'd buy from other brands, so keep that in mind. But if you're just using it for light food prep and just stashing a bag when you're loading groceries or whatever, it's great. So definitely check out the link if you're interested in more of that. All right, let's head to the side of the Jeep to talk about the next underrated mod. So probably the question I get asked more than any other is, Caleb, what fender flares are you running on your Jeep? And they're just the factory plastic, ugly fender flares that I trimmed myself with a Dremel. Now there's different videos, how-to videos out there on this you can check out, but basically you just use painter's tape and a Sharpie, however you want to mark it, and measure as precisely as you can so that the sides match. And you just use that Dremel and just go nice and slow, trim that fender off, and then use door trim, like the adhesive door trim that you would put on the side of the edge of your vehicle doors to clean up the edging. It makes it look really nice and professional. Now you do have to trim the underside as well and the fender liners and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a process, but it's not hard. It just takes some time. It's a little tedious. You got to measure really carefully and measure twice, cut once, But yeah, it's definitely something you can do that's basically a free mod, and it really improves the look of your vehicle. So definitely encourage that. If you're wanting flat fenders but you don't want to spend the money on a new set, just trim your plastic factory ones. It turns out pretty well. There's 5 left, and you're going to want to stick around for the last one because I think, to me, that's probably the most important one of all. All right, next on my list, it's a small thing, but I like small details sometimes. It's my GPCA hand grabs. Now, why I like these so much, first of all, they've held up great for over 3 years, I think, now that I've had them on the Jeep. But what I like about them is they're metal. I think they're aluminum. They're sturdy, but they fold out of the way whenever you don't want them. So you're not always bumping your head on when you get in and out of the Jeep. I like that. So they stash out of the way, and then when you need them, they're right there to fold down. They mount to these really strong Velcro, like a sleeve that goes over your roll bar. So really sturdy, really strong. Certain models, they have little pockets built into the sleeve where you can stash a flashlight or something, but this is just the basic model. But I've got them on the front and the rear, and they've held up great, and I like that you can kind of fold them out of the way when you're not going to use them. All right, my next underrated mod are my rock rails. Now these are just the Jeep factory rock rails that come on the Rubicon and certain other editions of the JK. I bought these secondhand for like 60 bucks. They're super easy to install, and they've held up great. My favorite aspect of these are just how minimal they are, how clean they look on the vehicle. You don't even really notice that they're there until you're looking closely. And for me, I like that. I prefer that on my build. So these have held up great. I just had to trim them in the back to fit the larger tires, which was an easy thing to do. But yeah, if you're looking for cheap rock rails, check out the factory, Rubicon rails for the JK. They've held up great for me, and you can probably find a set for cheap locally wherever you're at. All right, we've only got 3 underrated mods left. This next one is another easy DIY project, super inexpensive and a good thing for you to do, and that is Diff Breather extensions. Let's check these out. So extending your Diff Breather tubes is really easy, but it's important if you're doing a lot of water crossings, especially because the factory ones aren't that long. So all you need is extra tubing that's the same size as your stock Diff Breather tubes. You're just going to keep the stock tube and just extend it. And to extend it, you need a little brass fitting that inserts into the end of your stock tube and inserts into the end of the new tube. And then you can use little metal clamps like I have on there, and that extends that tube up as high as you want. For me, I installed the back one in behind my rear tail light, and in the front, I ran it up along the shock housing up into the engine bay. So for me, it just extended it by a couple of feet and allows for deeper water fording. If you're up that high in water, you got other problems. But yeah, simple, easy DIY thing to do for sure if you're doing water crossings. All right, 2 more underrated mods. Next on the list is my Smittybilt compressor. Now, before you say, hey, why are you including a compressor on your most underrated mods? It's specifically this model. This is the 5.6 CFM Smittybilt compressor. They come in a smaller size and then this size. This one is an overperformer. It keeps up with my buddy's dual ARB compressor just fine. In fact, it's really not all that longer to air up my tires than my CO2 tank. This thing puts out a lot of air, and they're really inexpensive. I'll leave a link for them down below. You check out. But the way I mounted this, I've done a video on why I chose to mount it here in the back of the Jeep, so I won't go into detail there. But this compressor has held up fantastic for me, and I still, even with CO2, I still find myself using it quite a bit because it's just that good, and it's durable and it holds up. Smittybilt built a really good compressor with this one. So if you're in the market for a compressor, something cheap, easy to get started with off-roading, check out the Smittybilt 5.6 CFM compressor. All right, now my final underrated mod, and it's also in the back of the Jeep. It's down below, and it's my Helical rear diff. Now, I had this thing put in whenever I was having the Jeep re-gear. This is a non-Rubicon Jeep, so it does not have lockers, and the guy that was re-gearing it, thankfully, recommended I at least consider this Helical rear diff, because what it does is it basically locks the Jeep into a posi in the back as soon as there is any slippage on one of the wheels. So it's very nice for crawling over larger obstacles. If you get any kind of wheel spin on one side or the other in the back, it locks it into a true posi, and it does it very quickly. So really the only difference in that and a locker from an actual performance standpoint is it takes couple of seconds of spinning to lock in both tires, but once they're locked in, both tires pull as though it were a posi. So it's pretty impressive, and it's much cheaper than a locker. So if you're in a non-Rubicon and you're getting your Jeep re-geared and you're not doing lockers, definitely do a Helical diff, or at least consider it. For me, it's gotten me out of a lot of sticky situations. I've almost never gotten stuck in this Jeep, even doing some of the hard stuff in Moab and wherever else I've been. And a lot of it's due to that Helical rear diff. So a big fan of that thing. The brand of mine is Nitro Gear and Axle. I believe there's different brands, but I can speak to this one. It's held up fantastic for the last couple of years. Well, there's the 7 mods. Let me know what you think in the comments. What mods do you have on your rig that you feel like are underrated? I'd love to hear about it. As well as any of these products I referenced that are available on Amazon. I'm gonna leave links down below. That's a great way to support the channel. As well as any videos I referenced, those links will be down below as well. And if you're interested in any 4x-Trail merch, like a t-shirt, a hoodie, a decal, you can hit up the 4x-Trail merch store. I'll leave a link in the description. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon in the next video.